The drama surrounding Bria Hartley has exploded into one of the most controversial moments of the WNBA season. What began as just another hard-fought game turned into a firestorm that no one could have predicted. A single collision, a single expression caught on camera, and suddenly the conversation wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about intent, accountability, reputation, and the fragile line between competition and recklessness. When Sophie Cunningham crumpled to the hardwood clutching her knee, the energy inside the arena shifted instantly. Fans held their breath, teammates surrounded her, trainers rushed onto the floor. But the cameras weren't only focused on Sophie's pain, they were also catching Bria Hartley, glancing back with what many described as a sinister grin. That outrage smirk, frozen in a single frame, became the centerpiece of outrage and the spark that ignited a controversy still raging today. The collision itself looked chaotic, almost like an accident of timing. Sophie had planted her leg, ready to set her position, while Hartley came barreling in at an awkward angle. Their bodies clashed and Sophie collapsed in visible pain. It was one of those moments every athlete dreads, the kind where you instantly know it isn't minor. She immediately grabbed at her knee, writhing as the arena went silent. Commentators tried to downplay it at first, urging calm, while the broadcast cut to commercial. But when fans returned, Sophie was already being helped to the locker room. Her face twisted in frustration, her season suddenly in doubt. Soon after, the diagnosis confirmed the worst. An MCL tear. Out for the year. That alone would have been heartbreaking. But it wasn't just the injury that sent shockwaves. It was what came after. As Sophie was being attended to, the cameras caught Hartley looking back, her lips curled into what many insisted was a smirk. That freeze frame spread across social media like wildfire. People weren't replaying the collision. They were dissecting that expression. Some insisted it proved intent, that Hartley wasn't just careless, but cruel. Others argued it was being taken out of context. But the damage was done. That grin became a symbol, one people pointed to as undeniable proof that this wasn't just an accident. The outrage didn't build slowly. It erupted. Fans clipped the moment, paused it, zoomed in, and flooded timelines with screenshots of Hartley's so-called sinister grin. The debate wasn't about the mechanics of the play anymore. It was about Hartley's character. Was she a dirty player? Had she gone too far this time? It wasn't the first time her name had been attached to controversy. Her reputation already carried baggage from past altercations, including a heated incident with Angel Reese that spiraled into physical shoving and even a hair pull. There had been ejections, flare-ups, and more than a few whispers that Hartley played with recklessness that bordered on dangerous. So when Sophie Cunningham hit the floor and Hartley's grin flashed on the screen, those past moments weren't forgotten. They were suddenly the entire context. To many fans, this wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a disturbing pattern. Then came the social media bombshell. Hartley herself had liked posts online that only fueled the narrative against her. One viral thread accused her of being the dirtiest player in the league, attaching clips of her past altercations with captions like "Death, Taxes, and Bria Hartley always at the scene of the crime." Screenshots confirmed her official account had liked them. For critics, this was the smoking gun. It wasn't just that she seemed to smirk after injuring an opponent, it was that she was doubling down, showing no remorse, and seemingly reveling in the chaos she had caused. That perception, whether fair or not, added gasoline to an already blazing firestorm. But perhaps the most cutting response didn't come from fans at all. It came from Sophie Cunningham's own family. Her sister Lindsay took to social media, with a post that spread rapidly, calling out the league itself for its failure to protect players. She wrote that maybe officials should focus less on fining athletes for criticizing referees and more on actually holding those referees accountable for ensuring player safety. Her words landed with force because they tapped into a frustration players and fans had already been voicing all season. Officiating inconsistency, missed calls, lack of protection. Sophie herself had already been fined earlier in the year for speaking out about poor officiating. Now injured and sidelined, her family was amplifying that same complaint, exposing a glaring disconnect between what the league said it valued and what was actually happening on the floor. Her mother Paula also weighed in, blasting Hartley as a disgruntled, mean-spirited player who played out of control. Though the post was later deleted, the damage was irreversible. Screenshots spread everywhere, and the family's frustration was treated as confirmation of what many fans already believed. The Cunningham family wasn't just upset about a bad break. They were furious about the league's inaction and Hartley's apparent lack of remorse. And that fury resonated. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one game. It was about the league's culture, its priorities, and its willingness to protect its players. All of this might have broken Indiana's spirit. They had lost Sophie, they were missing Caitlin Clark, and they trailed by 21 points at halftime. On paper, it looked like the game was over. But instead, what happened next became a moment that will be remembered for years. With their roster stretched thin, the Fever mounted the greatest comeback in franchise history. Kelsey Mitchell erupted for 38 points, 34 of them in the second half, dragging her team back from the brink. Odyssey Sims steadied the offense, while Aaliyah Boston anchored the paint with a double-double that gave Indiana balance. By possession, the deficit shrank. Loose balls bounced their way, defensive rotations tightened. And by the final buzzer, the impossible had happened. A 99-93 victory and a record-breaking 21-point comeback. What began as a nightmare had transformed into one of the season's defining triumphs. The resilience on display underscored what Sophie herself would soon make clear: Indiana was not about to fold. Meanwhile, Hartley's own response only added more fuel to the fire. As outrage spread and the viral smirk circulated, she began retreating from the public eye. Her social media accounts were locked, in some cases even deleted.